So I have a plant with me. It's not my plant, but it's my mom's plant. I digress though, doesn't matter. I was actually looking at John chapter 15, and God began to talk to me. In that chapter, it talks about how God is the gardener and Jesus is the vine. And I was like, well, how does God prune us? How is he the gardener? What does he do? Tell me more. He started to talk to me about this plant. Now on this plant, you see some healthy green parts, and then you see some not so healthy brownish parts. You can hear it too. The leaves are brown and shriveled up, and the particular branch is withered away, right? And so I started to look up some things about this plant and houseplants in general. And one of the things I saw is that one of the best times to prune or to garden plants is actually during the wintertime, which is interesting because in my mind, I'm like, oh, it's cold and the nutrients aren't so great. How in the world is that going to make the plant better? But in the wintertime is the best time to prune. And that had me to thinking about the wintertime in the literal sense, but also in the symbolic sense, right? In our wintertime, symbolically, that's a dark time. That is a time where a lot of work is involved. There's not as much sun. And I started to think, last winter for me, it was just a lot of work, a lot of doing things that I didn't necessarily want to do. And I was just like, oh, when are my happy times coming? Like, what is this? I don't like this. Like, my joy, where is it? In that time, they're able to prune the plants a lot better. And when they prune, they actually are taking away those dead leaves, those branches, and those things that are starting to grow in ways that will not help it to produce fruit or to produce leaves or whatever it needs to produce, right? And when we think about that with God, when he prunes us, he's pruning every thought, every mentality. He's pruning friendships, relationships. He's pruning family. He's pruning your desires, your heart. He's pruning your purpose, your calling, your career. Like all of that, God is pruning, taking away things that do not add to our growth. When we think about plants, we think about all the nutrients they need to grow. They need water, some of them actually need nutrients added to their soil. They need the right kind of soil. They need the sun. They need a good environment. And sometimes you have to dust off the leaves so it can grow and get enough sun. But when you think about that with us, God does the same thing. He's watching our environment. He's watching who's in our spaces, who we're letting in our spaces. He's watching who's speaking in our spaces. He's watching who's speaking in our lives. He's watching what we ingest into our bodies, but also what we ingest mentally. God is taking note of every single thing. He's our gardener. And in the same way they prune plants, God prunes us to make sure we can grow. One interesting thing is that God himself is not necessarily changing the season for us. What he does is he prunes us through the season so that we can get through it. And his ultimate goal is to make sure we are growing in every aspect, that we're growing into the man and woman he's called us to be, that we're growing into the husband and wife, the boyfriend, girlfriend, the worker, the CEO, the employee, whatever it is. He is interested in growing us, helping us to grow to get to that place. So just like people prune this plant, God prunes us. That's crazy, right?